And thank God next week will be in a normal time.
Yes, yeah.
Because even on Tuesday call, we had a lot of people. When we closed the call, I could see popping, new people coming in. It's like, because it's, no, this week in Europe, this is a weird time. And then APAC doesn't quite often change at all. So, and I think both US and Europe are planning to stop doing this. So hopefully that will happen on the same year, because otherwise that will drive everybody crazy.
Oh my gosh, that would be insane if only one did.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that would be the worst. What time is it? I don't know. I'm just going to stop sleeping.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community Call, where we're going to talk about lots of things. October 30th, 2025. Ooh, spooky. All right, so today we've got 3 lovely demos for you. We're going to have Joel coming up here. He's going to be talking about documenting your solutions using VS Code. Mohammed's got some really cool stuff with unit testing. And then Hugo's putting AI and stuff as usual. Woo, that's exciting. But first, we're going to cover all of our project updates, of which we have many, because there are many, many things going on in the community, as always. So let's get started. So first off, we always like to tell you, we've got all of these resources available to you. You can head over to this aka.ms/community/home or community.ms and head on over here, and you can find all of these things, including our whole YouTube channel, which has all of the demos you'll see today or within 24 hours, plus all the demos of the past and everything else. And then we've got a LinkedIn group for you to do all the business in, right? And then we also got a Discord group for the opposite of business in. Yes, that sounds good. We'll have a link for that near the end. And then, of course, we have all of our open source repositories and tools and samples. There are literally thousands of samples at this point and tons of tooling available for you. And we're going to talk about a few of those now. All right. But first, if you're not aware you're on a call, congratulations, you are on a call. And we have several of these. If you're on YouTube, well, you can join the call next time, right? So if you head over to this link here, you can find our invites to all the calls. We'll even handle some of our weird time zone stuff that's going on right now. Woo! Get your invite added to your calendar. It will be updated. Very excited. Please join us for these. It's great to be in the live chat and see what's going on. And of course, we have this call coming up here on the 4th of November. So next week, we've got the 365 and Power Platform call, where we'll have April is going to be doing a demo, and then we'll also have Derek doing a demo. So it should be pretty exciting stuff. So please join us for that. And if you would like to be one of the people presenting, we would love to have you. So please fill this out. We'll walk you through it. We love getting started type things. So if this is something you've just figured out, you don't have to be an expert on it. You can just say, hey, I did this. And we'll take a look. It'll be awesome, right? And of course, if you've got something really amazing, we'd love to see that too, or anything in between. If you've got questions about it, fill it out. We'll let you know if it's a good fit or not. It probably is. All right. And David, why don't you tell us all about this?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. So sharing is caring, friends, is that hands-on guidance opportunity. We just had one a couple weeks ago. We're setting one up for the coming month of November and December. These are live sessions. They provide hands-on guidance on how you can contribute to some of those samples that you're going to see all the amazing people talking about today. It is a safe space, which means it's not recorded, so you're free to ask any and all questions, and it's a great way to collaborate with other members of the community. So keep it on the lookout at ak.ms/sharing is caring. And oh, by the way, when you contribute in these events and sharing is caring, you become a recognized member of the community. And that's important because we got a recognition program powered by Credly, considered best in class, awarded by Credly because of all the amazing work that you all are doing. We are in the last days here of Hacktoberfest and the superhero season, but we got more great stuff coming up. We've got our Back to the Community and 1.21 gigabit contributor that's along with Hacktoberfest. Those will continue into November, December. We've got our Season of Getting coming back. We've got our Home Alone themed, and we've got our Elf themed, and all those cool, fun, end-of-the-year themed badges that are coming up as well. It is absolutely free, ak.ms/community/recognition. Just need to opt in. We'll track the amazing work that you're doing, and we will send those badges so that you can share them and show that you are making a difference in the community. Chris, back to you.
Woo! And by back to me, you mean back to Vesa. Vesa, tell us all about the SharePoint framework.
I will. Let's go to the following slide. We did publish today an updated roadmap on the October 2025 roadmap. So because we promised to do once a month updates on what's happening and updates on the roadmap and all of that stuff. And there's some new cool things mentioned on the roadmap as well, and showcasing, for example, the upcoming developer toolbar for in-pages debugging, which is pretty, very cool. Now, let's go to the following slide. The next version is 122, and it is currently in beta 4. We were actually planning to get a release candidate out this week until we in the last minute, we found out one small thing, and we needed to delay that. So release candidate is planned to get out next week, and the general availability on 122 to the week after. Let's go to the following slide. I think this is just an updated chart again on showcasing where we are and growth. And I think it was Chris who created this animation. Just love it. So that's all good. Still going there. Now let's go to the following slide. Here's the latest on SPFx roadmap side of the house. So again, release candidates coming in early November. So most likely next week, unless we find anything else, and then general availability in mid-November. The 122, it is for addressing all of the security issues in NPM audit. We are currently clean. We're crossing fingers that there will not be any new findings in NPM for security perspective within 2 weeks. So we will be clean when we go GA. Now, the following day, we don't know. And then depending on security findings, we will potentially roll out new updates after that. But it's a great to clean up the baseline, and also providing an updated tool chain where we are transitioning from Gulp to Heft. And this is a more open source, and you're able to actually use just Webpack as well if you want to. 123 is then building on this new platform and new clean setup, new capabilities, open source solution template, CLI, all of that stuff. 124, we only know one thing over there. But there's a lot of other plans in the pipeline as well. But that's a quick update on the SPFx from the engineering side, and let's move into the projects.
Exciting. All right, let's see. So for the first thing we're talking about is our Copilot prompt library. So if you're not aware, if you've ever been staring at a blank chat screen, wondering how can I tap into the power of the bots or whatever, I don't know, whatever you're trying to do, right? Sometimes it can be hard to look at that blank canvas. So we've got a lovely prompt library where people have gone through and have done all the hard work of testing these things, and you might be inspired for all sorts of stuff. And in fact, you might even become prompt of the week, like Christian here. So Christian is our prompt of the week, where he's got a nice data scientist prompt. With the rest is a bunch of lore ipsum. So if you're having trouble reading that, you are not having a stroke. That is on purpose. But be sure to check some of that out. It's very cool. All right, make a word cloud with all sorts of stuff. I think the intent is for you to replace the lorem ipsum with your own text, But if you wanted a lorem ipsum word cloud, then, just copy and paste right away. There we go. All right, there is an example of it. Ooh, that is fancy. All right, now let's talk about PNP.js. Now, I don't think we've got Julie or Bo on the call, do we?
No, so if you'd like to take it, do your best.
Yeah, sure, All right, woo! PNP.js is cool. The end. Just kidding. So there was a version released on October 20th. You can see all the exciting things to it. The big one being the updates to the graph typings. So that's very exciting. And version 5 updates have started. So if you're looking to find out what's coming there, or to get started on that, you can go ahead and use that nightly build there. And the version 5 will be soon. So very exciting. All right. And then Gary.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes, we so the CLI for Microsoft 365 latest beta v11.1 is still out there. We're not quite ready to push the new version yet, but we have new commands for SharePoint Online, which is around alerting. So if you want to find out the alerts that are on your list, or remove alert from a list, you can now use the CLI for that. There's also been updates, quite a considerable update actually, to our documentation. So for every command, we aim to list the minimal permissions that you need to execute that command, because we want to make sure that you're using CLI in a secure way. There's over 30 commands that have been updated in our docs. So make sure you keep taking a look at those, because we add them all the time. And go back through your permissions and just make sure that you're using the level of permissions that are just needed, that you're not actually adding too much in there. So if you want to try out the latest beta, you can get that from npm or Docker. Just use the @next tag. As well as a reminder, this is the V11 beta, so we did have breaking changes between V10 and V11. So if you're still wanting to make that jump from 10 to 11, then go and take a look at our upgrade guidance, aka.ms/CLI-M365/upgrade, and you will get all of the information there. As always, we've got full release notes on the website as well. And you have any issues, contact us in the GitHub or in the Discord community as well. Moving on, Chris. So we have a new release of DevProxy. This is a version 1.3. So we've got 2 new plugins. We've got the HAR generator plugin. So this is the HAR file type that you might see in Google Chrome. So you're able to extract the requests and able to import and export them into Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge as well. So it's good if you want to capture the requests over time and then reload them in and inspect them through the developer tools. We've also got an OpenAI usage debugging plugin as well for tracking your usage of language models. So things like the amount of tokens that requests are using. Just a nice, easy way to just kind of track how you're using language models. So we've got a few other updates, bug fixes, and improvements. We've also released a new version of DevProxy Toolkit as well, which includes snippets and updates for those new plugins. And as always, we'll be looking for a new release, which will be v1.4 next month. And Chris, back to you.
Ooh, I know. I was waiting to hear you say HAR generator plugin. I mean, that's a pretty good name. HAR. All right, perfect. So then let's head on over here. And let's talk about these reusable SPFx controls. So if you are doing SPFx at all, I highly recommend these. I use these every time I create an SPFx project. So we've got React controls. If you're React, a ton of awesome features there. And then, of course, we have the property controls as well. So over the property pane, don't write yourself a people picker or a list picker. Work on the things that actually you're supposed to be working on, and don't worry about that kind of stuff. So check these out. They are awesome. And let's talk to Adam here. Adam, tell us all about this thing.
Yeah, so hi everybody. This time we didn't have any new pre-release of SPFx Toolkit, but we are wrapping up our latest updates. Are just around the corner. Just going to, I hope, merge them tomorrow. And this update will basically enhance SPFx Toolkit to allow you to set up your environment, validate, and set up your local environment for any version of SPFx. So currently, it was always towards the latest version. Now we will be able to pick any version of SPFx and validate or install the dependencies for this SPFx version, including if you are using NVM or NVS, which SPFx Toolkit support. It will also allow you to SPFx Toolkit will also check if you are using NVM, and if you have the proper version of Node, it will switch to it, ask prompting first for your approval, or if not, it will ask to install it using the NVM or NVS command. So I think really awesome. And we have also a PR that is going to adding the support for all the heft tasks for the upcoming new 1.22 release. We are postponing this PR until we have a release candidate out of this SPFx version. And other than that, I would like to thank all of the contributors during the Hacktoberfest event that done a lot of stuff in our repo and help us improve this product and push things forward. So that's about it. Happy coding, everybody. And back to you, Chris.
Woohoo! And I would say if you haven't yet completed all your PRs for the Hacktoberfest, there's still time. So, you still could earn a t-shirt or plant a tree or whatever they're doing this year. Perfect. All right. And Casper, tell us all about the search.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Finally, we can announce that we have a new release. That's the first since February. We have had a long period of dry spells here because we have had some updates to the backend and to the security, and they've been rather tricky, and we had to test a lot. And we released a 4.18 2 days ago, and we tested that and found some issues. So we've just updated it a couple of hours ago, actually, to make sure that all of your custom handlebars are respected as they used to. So a big thanks goes out to the people that you see on the screen here who's contributed to this release. And if we go to the next slide, I'll just show some of the highlights. There's some more coming, and you can check the release notes. We have the new logos, icons for that was released a couple of weeks ago. So we are on the cutting edge there. And then we had an update to the search box styling. Now we can really take advantage of all of the options to style it yourself as you please. A great piece of work that was done there. And then we have also a Czech, the language pack for the Czech language as well. We are updated to almost to the latest version of SPFx. That's well, they're coming all the time, so we'll have to keep on top of that. But take a look at the release notes and see if there's anything that you've been missing from since February that has been released in this update. And now that we have finally come across that hurdle where we have updated the backend, now we can start providing features again. So I'm really looking forward to new releases, a couple of releases probably before Christmas. So we're back on track and going strong as ever. Back to you, Chris.
Woohoo! And Hugo, tell us all about these samples.
Well, we have a lot of samples that have been updated or added in our SPFx sample repository, where you can find sample web parts and extensions. There's too many to list, but I'd like to thank Nello, Amer, Peter Paul for doing many updates, and then Saisiva, Ram, Bandaru, Sandeep, Adam, Mark, Alberto, and Joao. For all their cool updates. You can see some screenshots of the updates there. Don't forget that if you have a sample to contribute, you're welcome to do so by going to aka.ms/spfx-webparts. And if you do contribute, you will get a fancy badge. You can find all the samples by going to aka.ms/community/samples. And that's it for me. Back to you.
And David, why don't you tell us all about these aces?
Why don't I? Thanks, Chris.
Wow.
So we've got a couple new ones. One new one specifically from Amer on status message ACE, and then he did an update on the page creation ACE. So great opportunity. ACEs are super lightweight, easy ways to be able to provide functionality and interactivity. So really appreciate that. And they do also have dedicated badges. So I think we appreciate all the community and all the samples they've been providing. So now, hey, guess what time it is?
Wrong.
Fancy.
Incorrect. Because I snuck a slide in.
Oh,
you let me touch the slides, suckers. Look at these pets. So if you haven't found out, this has nothing to do with PNP. Had nothing to do with Microsoft 365. But again, I had the controls. So there are pets, but I wanted to update you because of Halloween tomorrow. Oh, there's also squirrels and skeletons. Ooh. So, be sure to check that out. That thing's also free and very exciting. So now we can take your picture, David.
That's right. All right. Yes. Important business stuff first. Those are fun, though, by the way, everybody. So there's some cool Easter eggs in there, too. Yeah. So get those cameras turned on. I will share my screen here and we will get this going. And I will open back up Teams because it wants to condense there. Oh, all right. The interwebs are not looking too bad. All right, see Vesa, I see Casper, I see Craig, I see Mohammed, Joel, awesome. We'll give it just another second. We're just a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay. We are doing okay. So if you want to try and get that camera, I see a couple more coming in. We'll give it just a couple more seconds. Looks like the bits and the bytes have caught up, so we're looking pretty clear. So we will give it just 2 or 3 seconds, and we will start the countdown. 3, 2, and 1. Let's wave to the community, everybody. Great to see you all. Really appreciate everything you're doing each and every single day for this community. Keep it up. Amazing. We're doing our best to recognize all your hard work in ways that we hope you appreciate. So great to see you all there. Excellent. Ooh, Hugo snuck in. Awesome. All right, everybody. Great time to see you. Thank you. We'll get that shared out on the interwebs. And Chris, back to you.
I'll tell you what, Joel, if you're ready.
Let's jump in. So, unfortunately, my VS pets aren't on today, so we're not going to see any squirrels or skeletons or whatever it was on that one. So we'll forego that one. So let me just get my screen sorted. Hopefully I can share my right screen. So this is now the second test of screen share. This is now a Microsoft Teams test rather than a presentation test. Hopefully that looks like that's the right one there. So hi everyone. This was just something that I'm Joel Lockey. I'll flip on to the next page. So I'm a Power Platform consultant at ANS Group in the UK. Been working with Power Platform Dynamics for about 6 years now. Really, what spurred me doing this demo and what brought this all up was that I shared a LinkedIn post that blew up a little bit, and I didn't want to leave it down to the LinkedIn algorithm for people to see this. So hopefully, people get some use for this today, and they can actually use it on their Power Platform or Dynamic solutions. So that is what it's all about. So I think, as everyone knows, isn't documenting your solution a pain? It's always the worst part. If you've not done it as you go, it's always the last part. So this actually happened to me internally. ANS, I was developing a solution just for the team to use internally. And had I documented any of it? Nope. So there was absolutely no context, no documentation, nothing. And then when I needed to get that particular solution live, then we needed documentation, we needed testing, we needed all of these different things that just hadn't been done all the way through because it was internal and it was just meant to be, you know, on the side, a side bit of work. So this got me thinking, like, quite quickly, right, how can I do this that it's not going to be a brand new start? At the time, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, none of them could interpret zip files, and I'm not actually sure if they can interpret zip files yet with GPT-5 coming out recently. So I sort of found this little hack and this little workaround in Visual Studio Code that I've been using ever since. It is so easy. It still uses GitHub Copilot, so there's still a little bit of Gen AI sprinkled in there, but it's been great. And this is how I now start all of my documentation for anything Power Platform related. And really, your documentation is as good as your prompting at this point. So there's a little bit of prompt engineering I'm doing here as well to try and ground things. So I'll show you what that's all about. So let me now escape out of this, and then I'm going to get Visual Studio Code up. So first things first, for anyone that has never looked inside their Power Platform solutions, before we look at all this stuff on the right-hand side, as you know, if you've not got full proper pipelines in place, your solution is just a load of flat files with different bits and pieces in it. So you can interrogate those files at any time that you want, you know, outside of this. If you wanted to go and sit and read through how Power Automate looks or how an app looks in the background, you're more than welcome to. Not for me, but at least this gives us a bit of a head up when it comes to doing documentation. So first things first, in Visual Studio Code, sans pets, you can open a folder and actually just open that folder to work out of it. So what I've done here, I have exported my solution from Power Platform. I have then unzipped it and just left it where it is. So if I open up a folder here, what you will see is I've got, it's in this one here. So I've got my app here, which was a skills matrix. So that was all about knowing who can do what in the team, who's good at Power Pages, I presume no one, who's good at, you know, all those different things. So now that I've done that, if I click through, you'll see I've got web resources, I've got workflows, and there's files that sit underneath that, which basically tell the platform what to do when it comes to importing that next time round. However, what I'm going to do, I'm going to select that folder and open that in Visual Studio Code. So now what we will get, yes, I trust the authors because it is me. Obviously, trust your authors if you feel like trusting them. So now what I can see is I've got all of my different objects in there. I've got my solution.xml, I've got my customizations.xml, and then I've got all that other good stuff in there as well. So this is where we can get a bit funky. We can start using GitHub Copilot to generate a solution document based off of these files. So as I say, at the time, GPT-5 or GPT-4 point whatever it was at the time couldn't quite interpret zip files. But that may have changed. I'll be interested to see that afterwards. Hopefully someone gets value out of this because it should just save you time and have you a good start of a 10. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I've got my file loaded in. So I just did file and then I did open folder. First things first, I need to actually let the Copilot know and clue the Copilot in on the fact that there's some files here that I want to get talking about. So if I add context and then go to files and folders, so you'll be very familiar with this if you've ever used GitHub Copilot. But maybe it's just a new funky way that you've not used it before, then I'm going to select our solution. I personally have found that Claude is the best way to get this working. GPT-5, GPT-4o, I've struggled with a little bit. I've certainly struggled with Grok. So Claude Sonnet 4 has been the one that I have this working with the most. And then let me paste in my prompt. Oh, that's a pasted image instead of my prompt. Let me see if I can find my prompt, more importantly. It's in here somewhere. So what I've done is just said, create a solution design document for this Power Platform solution, having added the context in. Where the code is used, display it in full. So anywhere I've got web resources or plugins, please display that in full. And if we're doing Power Automate, we need to put that in a sort of when, if, and then type statement. So like an if this, then that kind of statement. And finally, it should be technical enough for the solution architect to understand. And this little last bit is a little bit of secret sauce I've added in, because I've found that sometimes the LLM gets a bit confused around what exactly it's looking at. Is this a business process flow? Is this a classic workflow? Is this a real-time workflow? So what I've found to try and ground the prompt a bit and ground the LLM a little bit is I tend to just do a little bit of adversarial co-piloting. So I ask Copilot to just generate a sentence with a snippet from the solution file within Power Platform, with a list of all the different objects that are in there. And that has, anyway, as far as I've seen it, just helps it ground a little bit in terms of what to expect, what it's looking for. But you can get some really cool outputs from this. And as I say, your documentation is as good as your prompt. So let's run it and let's see what happens, because sometimes it falls over, sometimes it doesn't. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to run that now. So what that's going to do, that's going to go and iterate over all those files. You can see it's going to read them, and it'll read them 1 to 100, 100 to 168. So this is really where GitHub Copilot is it gets around any issues you have with token sizes and prompt sizes in traditional LLMs. So because it can chunk things up and actually go through each of the files individually, this is where the benefit comes in. So, you know, I was trying this exact same thing in all of the different, in your preferred LLM tool, and it was just hitting a brick wall. It couldn't interpret certain file types. It couldn't interpret certain documents. So you can see it's going to iterate all over our web resources there, or I think it did workflows first. Now it's looking at web resources and it's iterating away there. And then hopefully this doesn't fall over, because it has been a little bit tricky. And now it's going to look at the XAML files. But what this does is it basically builds you up a really good start of a 10 for your documentation at the end of the project, or if you're more prepared than me, halfway through the project. So now it's going to get a complete picture of the entities. It can take a little while, this. I shared the LinkedIn post with David as well, so you might see that in the chat, and it's got a slightly condensed version of this. Hopefully this is novel and people haven't done this before, because it certainly wasn't a way that I thought of doing, you know, using sort of Gen AI and LLMs to generate a solution design document. So the really good thing is it'll produce this in Markdown for us. And then once that's in Markdown, we're only like a hop, skip, and a jump away from pasting that into a DevOps wiki, or we can prompt a bit more with GitHub Copilot to get back a Word document. Obviously, the same things apply, the same rules apply, the same things around check your Gen AI content, your generative output. Hopefully this works. It looks like it's going to, because it has actually iterated through each of the documents that you see on the left-hand side, of the files you see on the left-hand side. And it's working, and it's working, and it's working. This is the problem with Gen AI. Is it working? Is it not? Let's see if it does. But it's just been super handy, and it's been good to just do this to refresh your memory on a solution. I know that where I work at ANS Group, you know, we support customers sometimes, so we may support systems we don't have full context around. So just downloading that zip file, unpacking it, and then generating a solution design document off the back of it. There you go. Right. Awesome. So now, if we wanted to, we can start editing things, we can start correcting it, and we can prompt our way to having a much better file. So you can see it's going to give me a little bit of spiel around what it's actually created, what it's found within the solution. So if I just keep that now, this is all in Markdown. So it's a very easy format to work with. So it's found all of those different things that I added the context into the prompt for. And what you'll also find as well is it will also sometimes, and again, that might be prompt related more so than this particular solution, it'll go through and it will produce you like an entity relationship diagram. It'll also do like a bit of a process flow for what the process is through the different aspects of the solution. But what that gets you is a hell of a lot closer to an endpoint than you would have had otherwise. You can see it's broken down my Power Automate flows, and it's broken those down into sort of when, then, and ifs. And it can, yeah, it's super handy. You can see we've got email template, we've got the next one. So reason I thought I'd submit for this is because I just think it's a really cool way to generate documentation at pace and quite quickly without having to do, manually typing or some other way. So hopefully someone gets some benefit out of this. You can see we've now got the JavaScript in there. So it's actually pulled all that information out of the individual files themselves. And yeah, I could easily drop this, as I say, into a DevOps wiki, or I can prompt a bit more to get it to do some things in Terminal, which people may know on the call, to convert that into a Word document. So just super handy. Everyone I've showed this to, everyone that has ended up using this has been really pleased with it. So hopefully people get a benefit out of it and see the benefit, and hopefully you can start using this a lot quicker. As I say, you could easily prompt your way to a better document as well. So if there are things that you feel are missing, if there are things that you have as part of your own sort of template and you want to put that in, you are slightly restricted around the attachments you can use in GitHub Copilot, but you can also obviously then reference other files as well. So if you want to convert your Word document that is your template into Markdown, add that in as a file, and then give the GitHub Copilot context to that as well. Then you can use that to sort of do a bit of a comparison between what it generates and what your typical is. So yeah, that is quickly generating solution documentation using GitHub Copilot. Hopefully people have found that useful. I certainly do. I use it at least once a week now. So yeah, thank you, everyone.
Awesome, Joel. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That is awesome. Mohammed, if you are ready, you can go ahead and share your screen, and we'll get started on your demo as well.
Yes. All right. Let me know if you see my screen. Okay.
Yep, we sure do. Thanks.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me today. Vitest unit testing. This is our demo today, and let's get started with how to level up SharePoint SPFx projects with Vitest unit testing. Before we dive in, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Mohammed. I'm a Microsoft 365 and SharePoint developer, and currently a tech lead at Atea Global Services. I'm deeply passionate about building impactful solutions for Microsoft 365 and giving back to the community through open source contributions, community talks, and blog posts. Feel free to connect with me through the social links on the slide. You will find my GitHub samples and my blog as well. What is Vitest? Vitest is a testing library which is inspired by Jest and closely integrated with Vite ecosystem. Vite or Vite is a scaffolding tool which emphasizes very fast reloads. It is quite similar to Create React app. Vitest is to Vite as Jest is to Create React app. Vitest was inspired by Jest, so it has many features that are equivalent. Vitest is very fast, just like Vite, so it emphasizes quick test executions. It has numerous features which assist in fast test runs. Also, Vitest is a full-featured testing library. It has many tools, including snapshots, coverage, user interface, and more. What are the Vitest features? First, it is integrated with Vite. So if you have Vite project, then it is integrated by default with Vite, but also it can be integrated with SPFx projects, and this is our demo today. It is very easy to get started by installing and running Vitest packages. It has a fast watch mode, which mirrors Vit's fast hot reloads. It has also many features. So out of the box, it supports testing JSX TypeScript. Vitest offers excellent support for snapshot testing. Anyone who is using this powerful tool will recognize that snapshot tests are an invaluable element for testing front-end applications, like in our case, SPFx projects. Vitest also features top-level await, which is a convenient syntax for waiting JavaScript, which makes our tests easier to understand and maintain. Finally, Vitest offers concurrency, which means that it is able to execute multiple tests in parallel at the same time. And this is another way in which Vitest speeds up test executions for our SPFx projects. The configurations and setup for Vitest. We have to install and configure Vitest before it can be used in our SPFx projects to run your tests. So to get Vitest working, first we should install it via npm. And remember to save it as div dependency, both to make our projects more organized and to prevent different divs working on the same application from accidentally using different versions of Vitest. We use Vitest config file to configure specific things about Vitest tests, like where our tests files are located. We can also customize Vitest, not just in the config file, but also via command line as well, which gives us additional features such as code coverage and AUI, etc. What we can customize using Vitest configurations. We can specify whether to include or exclude files, how to manage the dependencies, which reporters to use, for example, HTML or JSON reporter, or even LCOV. However, we can even order our tests. What to do when also tests fails? We can configure that, or when tests takes a long time, and a variety of additional options. Finally, for the configuration, you are advised to use the configuration references for the full list of all configuration settings in vitest.dev/config. Let's start the demo about what are the configurations that we should add to our SPFx project. In this demo, I did the configuration for SPFx WebPart project, the default WebPart that we always scaffold when we create new SPFx WebPart. Here are the npm packages required to configure Vitest in your SPFx project. You can see here the core Vitest packages and also the testing utilities packages and the environment and configuration packages. In my case, I always like to generate coverage and see the testing in UI, not only using or running the command, but also via UI. We will see that in the next slides. In The SPFx projects, I have to add these types in order to make our tests to run and configure the project properly. And here is the main important file for our configuration, vitest.config.ts. This configuration sets up the Vitest specifically for our SPFx projects. Here you can see I'm starting the configuration. Yeah, I'm starting the configuration here by adding the plugin configurations, and then the tests configuration. So here I set the global to be true to make Vitest globals available without adding imports everywhere. So it makes life easier. The environment also, here I'm using JS DOM to simulate browser environment for DOM testing. And also the setup files to set up to do some setup before each test suite. And the coverage configuration, and also the aliases here, not to always everywhere add the full path for our components, and the reporters. And then the setup tests. And for the setup tests, it should be in the same path for your test folders. So in my case here, you can see that I added a folder for tests, and I added the setup tests in the root of my tests folder. Then what I did testing for is the basic component that we always get when we create new SPFx web part. So this is the component, the default component, and I added the testing for this component. So what you can see here is the React component test suite for the Hello World component using Vitest and React testing library. So I'm starting here by setting the component props and giving some test values for our props of our component. And then I'm trying to make sure that my component is rendering some elements like the display name and description, and rendering the environment message, show the dark image, or making sure that the dark theme is true or not, and so on. So very basic tests to make sure that after our configuration, we have something to test. Then we can run the Vitest to see what will happen to our tests. Will it succeed or not? It might take time, maybe second or few seconds to show us the UI. So it opens up this browser for me to run the tests. So this is a UI that I can check use it to check my tests. It is still running. Okay, while it's running, we can check the recap and come back to the tests because it's still running. So to recap, what we are gaining from Vitest in our SPFx projects is fast execution, modern tooling, and SPFx compatibility and comprehensive coverage, developer experience, and CI/CD ready. And I think now we can maybe check the tests. All my tests passed, as you can see here. Yeah, all tests passed. So it is an awesome way to play with your tests, not only in the command, but also in the UI. And these are the links. So here is a link to my blog post about the configurations for SPFx project. I will also keep updating this blog post and the sample in my GitHub, and also the reference of Vitest if you would like to deep dive more with the configuration of Vitest. I would like to hear your feedback in maybe the Teams chat, as I'm thinking to prepare for a series for continuing with Vitest setup, because we can configure the SPFx configurations of Vitest in our SPFx project just with one prompt using VS Code prompt and GitHub Copilot. So in the next series, I will prepare how can we achieve that with one prompt to add all these configurations. Thank you, and feel free to review the sample code in GitHub. I would love to hear from you about like any potential updates or enhancements you identify. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Really appreciate it. Awesome demo. Great information. And now we'll go to the opposite. And Hugo, whenever you're ready, feel free to share.
Well, thank you so much. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Sure can.
Today, we're talking about creating an AI-powered adaptive card web part. This is part of a series that we are putting together. We've introduced the adaptive card web part in the previous calls. Now, today, we're going to talk to you about our custom property pane right here. So let's go to a demo. This is our web part. And when you configure it, you get this fancy custom property pane. The first thing you can do is you can actually edit a template. And we've got a few sections here. Let me put some content in there so you can see. First, I'll put a template. There you go. So this allows me to put adaptive card content. It allows me to do a preview right away from here. And eventually, we'll be putting our AI chat in here. I've made it possible for you to toggle between just editing the code, viewing, or seeing both, and hitting apply here. Actually, let me just go change that. Let me just show you that it's dynamic. So when I update it, you can see that it automatically updates in the call. All right, let's do something else. Let's actually go put a template that has data. So here's a template that uses data, and you can see there's these weird $sign squiggly thingy that are not intended to be shown. But this is where we have the ability to select a data source. Now, in our future plans, what we'll be doing here is we'll be adding different types of data sources. You can see static data, SharePoint, API, RSS, and it looks like my icon's broken. But if I pick the static data, for example, and I put some static data there, you can see that it immediately updates my adaptive card. And the idea would be we'll be able to call APIs and so on and so forth. But for sake of time, let's go back to our code. All right. So with the code, first thing that we should talk about is our property pane has a few sections, right? All property panes are designed the same way. They all have a, let me just check here how much time I got. All right, good. They all have a header, which can optionally have a description. I put a description in here. Then they have one or more pages, and pages have one or more groups. Each group can have one or more components or property pane fields. In this case, I have kind of my data source, which is a radio picker. And I have here a label and a Monaco editor. I'll talk about Monaco editor in a second. But how do we do that? Well, every web part has the opportunity to create a function called getPropertyPaneConfiguration, and its job is to return a iPropertyPane configuration. That's all really it needs to do. So it returns pages, like we talked about. It returns the header, and then the groups, and then each group contains a group name and a bunch of fields. Now we're going to focus on the data group to start with because it's a little easier. Again, the group fields are bound to, the first one is my choice group, which is bound to the data source property that I've opted. And so I give it a label, oops, and I give it some options. So my options here are no data, and you'll notice that I actually can pass a icon property, and I get to pick an icon from Office Fabric icon. Where do I get this name? Well, there's this cool website called flycon.io that allows you to actually find the icons you want. In this case, I was looking for something that showed an empty status. You can copy that and paste it in here. All right, let's move on. So I've got here an icon for the list, the SharePoint list, for the API. And then in this case, I didn't find a out-of-the-box icon that had RSS in the Fluent UI Office Fabric, whatever it's called now. So what I did is I actually, although that's the part that didn't work when I was demoing it just now, but I just got an RSS SVG icon, and I embedded it as a require. Now, since I prepared this code, I've changed this to not use a require, but the idea is the same. I'm just embedding an SVG, and I'm using it as the image source and the selected image source, which gives us the same icon when the thing is selected or not. Now, what I've also done is I've created some optional fields. So in this case, what I say is, if the data source is static data, I want to show a label, and I want to show a property pane Monaco. Again, I keep on using this term. What is this Monaco? We'll show it in a second. And then what I say here is, if it's not static data, return nothing or an empty array here. So what it's doing is it's going to append this. Now let's go back to the property pane Monaco, which is the editor that I showed at the top. Why am I calling it Monaco? Well, it's because of this cool control. It's called Monaco, funny name. And what it is actually the component that powers VS Code. Now, thanks to Microsoft for totally making this page accessible and using the word here. I'm just kidding here. But what the Monaco editor does is it has IntelliSense and validation. It's got syntax colorization, and it will support approximately a bazillion languages. Don't quote me on that, but it'll select a whole bunch of languages, and even offers things like a diff editor and everything. So the actual core functionality of VS Code is built into this component, and that's what I've embedded in my web part. So this is my Monaco editor here, property pane Monaco, and really all it does is it binds to a target property, in this case, either the data or the template, and it passes all the properties for this control. Because it's a custom control, it needs to return an I property pane field with internal properties. And these are the properties I'm passing here. So the value, obviously, so it's either the data or the template. The language, because I want to be able to specify things like I want to pass JSON or things like that. I also have a custom language provider, so I can pass custom template, which we'll demonstrate much later in this series, and the ability to either show an expandable panel or an inline editor. I try to localize everything, like the button title and the panel title. And when I change things, I want to be able to notify the web part that changes are happening. The internal properties, because it's a custom property pane field, it needs to extend the I property pane custom field props. And that contains methods like onRender, which is how it knows, how SharePoint knows how to render the custom property pane control. And then it also needs to specify that this is a custom field type so that it knows how to handle that. Now, inside of that, and let's see here, I'll go quickly, but inside of this component, all I need to do is return elements. So I create a stack, and then I have logic that says if it says show the online editor, show the little Monaco editor host. If not, show the expanded Monaco panel. And you can see here that I've got some code that I vibe coded because it's got an emoji in it. But this is where I control whether the large property pane is open or not, where I specify the value that I want to display. And this is how I actually tell it to update the web part when I make changes, or when I hit apply in this case. And then last little bit here, this is my expanded panel. So I literally just use a regular Fluent UI panel, but what I do is I specify that it's an extra large panel. I specify that there's a customized footer at the bottom, and I have a method to render the footer. And then I just create a stack with a toolbar, and then a grid that has my chat component, which is either shown or not, my editor column, and my preview column. And that's pretty much all I have for today. So again, we've talked about how to create a custom property pane, which embeds the Monaco editor and embeds the adaptive card viewer in the property pane. Next time, we will show you how to use AI to actually render the adaptive card and embed that into that custom property pane. If you want to find out more, you can find out about Monaco editor, Flycon, adaptive card, and the PNP reusable controls at these links, which I'm sure David has shared with you. That's all I have for today. Back to you, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Hugo. And to all our presenters through awesome demos today, action-packed call, we really appreciate it. And in fact, if you'd like to let us know how much you appreciate it or didn't, we would love for you to fill out this feedback link here. But seriously, we were looking for feedback, no matter how small, large, really. We would love to know what we can improve or do better, or what you'd like to see on the call, right? If you have suggestions for any of that, please fill this out. We do read it, and we enjoy it very much. And, of course, if you are young, cool, hip, or not that, really anything between, feel free to join us over here on Discord. There are 3,000 or more of us at this point. Where we are talking about all sorts of exciting things. You can continue the chat here from the call over there. We would love to have you. And then, of course, thank you very, very, very much to all our presenters and everyone here for participating. If you would like to watch these demos again, they will be posted within 24 hours, or you're already watching it on YouTube. Good job on that. And please join us again next week on November 6th and November 4th for our next calls. And that's it. Thanks so much. Wowee!
Wowee!
Wowie!
Bye-bye.